Today I'm going to teach you how to properly punch stitching holes so you get those nice crisp lines on both sides of your work. Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about punching stitching holes. I know it's not the most exciting topic, but it is a fundamental skill of leather crafting and something that you really need to master if you want to get straight lines in your stitching. I know when I first started, I was having issues where the front side would look fine and then the back side would look like crap. And it actually ended up coming down to just how I was punching my holes. I was saddle stitching just fine, but if your holes are all over the place, then your stitching will be too. So I'm going to go over the basics of how to mark your piece with the wing divider and how to mark and punch the holes, and then talk about a little bit why sometimes the back side can look worse than the front side. So the tools that you're going to need for today are, first of all, wing divider. This is just going to mark a nice straight line, something to line up your punches to so that you're ensuring you get a straight line. Obviously you're going to need punches, any kind of work. I like these Sinabroks 1.2 millimeter hole punch ones, but I also have the diamond chisels that I started with. These work just fine as well. It's the same concept no matter what kind of stitching punch or chisel you're using, so just use whatever you'd prefer. You're also going to need something to do your punching on. I use this piece of rubber here. I love this thing, it works really well. Before this, I used a small cutting board with a piece of scrap leather to punch on top of, and that worked just fine as well. You'll also need something to actually hit your chisel with. This is what I started with. This is just a cheap Amazon poly mallet. This works okay. It's a little bit light, so it's hard to get that force going. I prefer this one, and this is a tapered maul. This is also off Amazon. It's not that much more expensive than the mallet, but this is 1.2 pounds, and it's tapered so that when you're swinging it, it's actually more comfortable in your wrist when you make contact with this. This is really easy to miss, and then it throws your chisel off to the side and makes for a wonky hole, which you'll see later causes wonky stitching. So I would recommend the maul, but if you're careful, this works too. Lots of guys use these. And I will leave links to everything that I'm using here down in the description if you want to buy them. I would highly recommend getting this maul over the mallet. I think it's only like a $15 or $20 difference, and it's definitely worth it. But if you can't afford it, the mallet works just fine too. These are also on Amazon, pretty cheap. This wing divider is from Amazon, really cheap as well. And they're all great tools. I can't imagine I'll need to replace them anytime soon, if ever. So go down into the description and I'll round up the ones that I think are the best value for you guys. So let's just get into it here. Okay, so to start, what you're gonna have to do is take your leather, and we're just gonna mark a straight line. This is gonna be the reference point to mark your holes on. I set my spacing for my wing divider about 3 to 4 millimeters apart, but this is just preference. You'll have to kind of play with it and figure out what you like. I've heard that some guys take the thickness of the leather that they're stitching together and then set their dividers to be that same thickness in millimeters. And once you have your line marked here, I just take my stitching punch and I just lightly mark where I'm going to be pushing them through. This lets you make any adjustments that you need to make before it's too permanent. There's been a few times where I'll be marking them around the edge of a wallet, and when you get to the back side of the pocket, it's quite a bit off from where you started, so this gives you the chance to move those holes if you need to. And then when you start punching, just try to make sure it's as vertical as you can get. 90 degrees to your table would be the best. And you want to put the punch through the leather in as few hits as you can. The more times you have to hit it, the more chance you have to miss and kind of knock it sideways. And that can wreck how your holes look on the back side of your piece. And there we go, that looks like a good stitch line to me. And that's basically it. There's something I wanted to mention, and that's the importance of having your stitching punch or chisel or iron or whatever straight up and down. What happens if you start veering off a little bit is, so say you're punching through this single layer of leather, and you go in here. If you went off a little bit, it doesn't matter too much. It still makes a difference. But the thicker your layers of leather get, like, say this, so this is now 2 layers of leather, it starts to matter a lot more how straight up and down your punches are the more layers of leather you go through. Just because what happens is, say you're going through this, your entry holes are always going to be in the same spot. But when you start angling it, the thicker it is, the more off your lines will be coming out the backside. So that's what happens when you end up with the front side being a really nice stitch line and the back side being all over the place as people are going in at different angles, and it causes that wavy line. So the more straight up and down you keep this, the better your work's going to look on the backside, because it's not, going all over the place. I found that switching from the mallet over to the heavier maul really helped fix that issue, as well as keeping really sharp tools so that you can send it through the leather in fewer hits helps. Just anything you can do to make sure that your chisel or punch or whatever you want to call it is going through in fewer hits straight up and down will make both sides of your leather work look consistent. So it does come down to, I would say, practice is the main one. Keeping your tools sharp is probably the next one, and then strategically picking your tools. Get a heavier maul versus a lighter one of these. It'll really help you out. If you have any questions, leave them down below in the comments. I get back to everybody, or you can send me a message on Instagram or send me an email, however you want. Please like the video. It helps me out in the YouTube algorithms. I managed to pick up steam pretty good last month, and I really appreciate you guys helping me with that. I wouldn't be going anywhere without you guys helping, so I really appreciate it. I will see you in the next video. Thank you.